Rose, Koufax, Mr. Television, and we turn back the clock to 1964 on today's episode of Baseball King Collectibles. Hi, everybody. Back again. The Baseball King back in the studio with another episode for you guys. And we're going to have a good show today. We have a few Hall of Famers with us. We have a nice story from Turn Back the Clock. We all enjoy that one, I think. I hope. Most of you know it. Only old timers should know it. The young guys, stick around. We'll have that story for you, as well as another nice story of how I obtained my Sandy Koufax ball. One of my Sandy Koufax balls, I should say. So let's get into it today with our first guest. I'm going to start off with a couple Beckett magazines. Why not? Because, I love them, so... Oh, it's not Kirby Puckett. I wish it was. And it's not Stan Musial, who I do have, but not on this one. Well, but I do have Pete Rose. And Pete Rose again. Two different Pete Roses. And I got Pete Rose several times. First of all, he was as a manager. Came in with the Reds all the time. Signed night. He was a great sign all the time. Look at his signatures. It's great. I mean, he gives you a perfect autograph every time. He could sign that over and over thousands of times. I don't know how many times. He might be one of the most signed autographs in baseball history. Bob Feller, I think, was. And Bobby Dorr, I know, is another known one. But Pete Rose is right up there because he's signing away like crazy still. In the hotel, Vegas, one of the hotels, he's got a spot where he sets up shop and sells his autographs. This time I met Pete Rose was, he was doing a private signing. We were doing a private signing. I was with my friend. He was his marketing manager. And we were doing a private signing with Pete Rose in a hotel in Pennsylvania somewhere outside of Philadelphia. And we met him up there, a couple hours in the room. He must have signed a few thousand things. I don't know, but, his signatures, woo, he's flying, maybe. He's going good. So he was great. He signed everything I had. I had a lot of my personal items and, a couple of these. And I don't remember what I brought that day. I think I brought my bat and a few other things I got him on. And my father has another story. Pete Rose had a restaurant down in Boca Raton. My parents lived in Delray Beach, which is right next door, and they used to go there all the time. My father used to run into Rose, all the time. Once every couple of months, he'd see him in the store there and talk to him, get a few autographs from me along the way. So I got a ton of Pete Rose stuff, but is it worth anything? No. Because Pete Rose has signed way, way too much in his life to ever make his autograph more valuable than $65 maybe, or the price of a ball plus his autograph. It's not worth much. But it's just nice to meet these guys. Like I said, it was a great time. We did a private signing, many conversations. I don't remember the conversations we had, but we talked a lot of sports and stuff. That's his thing, It's in his blood. And it's a shame what happened to him, well, he caused his own problems, but it's been a long time. And does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? I believe so. I put him on my Hall of Fame bat. I believe in it. One day he will be. Probably after he's gone, unfortunately. That's what, it's coming to that. He's already in his 80s. And Pete Rose, believe it or not, is like 80, 82, something like that. That's crazy, right? But he is. And so we're all getting there. But Pete Rose was one heck of a guy, man. He ball player. You can't take away Charlie Hustle. You watched him play. I watched his whole career. I seen him from his very first at bat till his very last at bat, till his managing days, everything in between. Guy never not hustle. That's who he was. He was a winner. He was a winner, and he was a great should be a Hall of Fame. Obviously, the most career hits leader of all time should be in the Hall of Fame. So there you have it. A couple of Beckett's by Pete Rose, and let's get on to our next guest. All right, our next guest is one of the greatest left-handed pitchers of all time. Well, in my opinion, Sandy Koufax. Can we see that? It's there it is, I think. All right. Sandy Koufax, beautiful, of course, nice. How did I obtain this ball? I already had his autograph previously. So I went to a show. It was at Hofstra, Long Island. I was there for Tom Seaver for his autograph. It was a couple of Seavers I needed. I needed him on my 69 Met ball, a few other things. But Koufax was at the show. And I wasn't going to wait online for him. And I didn't need him. And the prices were up already. By that point, it was, maybe $75 or something, which was still late 90s. It was mid-90s, something like that. Early 90s. It could have been something like that. Mid-90s, I'm sorry. Anyway, so how did I get this ball? All right, so I'm not waiting online. I'm just hanging out at the show. I'm waiting for Seaver, who I didn't have to wait online either, because my friend who was one of the promoters at the show for the players, he was able to just get me to the front of the line. Frank Robinson that day, too. I got him signed that day, too. All non-gratis, or no payment. I didn't pay for any of that. So anyway, the Koufax ball. Again, how did I get the Koufax ball? For free. I didn't wait on his line. I didn't go near. I didn't even see him at that point yet. Well, his manager walks up to me and says, do me a favor? Sure, what do you want? Can you go across the street to the deli and get a sandwich for Sandy? He's hungry. I said, sure. Just write down what you want, anything, whatever. They gave me the money. I went across the street. It wasn't far. It was 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Not even, just I had to get in the car, but it's really literally across the street. Hempstead Turnpike, it's a major street, so you don't want to cross that. So anyway, I drove there, got the sandwich, came back, 20 minutes later, whatever. I brought it in, no problem. I said, hey, here you go. Here's your change. They gave me his change left over, whatever. And he said, okay, thank you very much. And, Koufax with he said, signing the ball. He's the line, he signed for everybody. But he's signing the ball. And then he handed it to me. He goes, oh, thank you very much. I go, thank you for what? Give me the sandwich. Oh, wow, Sandy, thank you so much. I said to him, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's an honor to stand next to you and just be in your same room as you. So I did say that. Thank you very much, Sandy, and have a nice day. That was it. So that's how I obtained this ball for free. I got Sandy Koufax a sandwich. How's that? All right. Happens. These things happen to me. I don't know how I get into these positions, but I did. Anyway, let's get to... let's turn back the clock. Let's go. Let's turn back the clock. Woo! Let's get it back going, back ticking. Here we go. We're going back to 1964. August 20th, to be exact. 1964. What was going on back then? Baseball-wise, Yankees were in third place. How's that? 4.5 games out of first behind the White Sox and the Orioles. And those teams are hot. And the Yankees just got swept. They just went to the White Sox. Chicago and got swept. They're 4.5 out. And it's a rough ride. They're getting back on the bus. Okay, they're going to Boston now. Bus to the airport. And it's a rough day. It didn't look good. It didn't look good at all. Cleat Boy was out there saying, it doesn't look good for us, just get swept out of here. What's the odds of Baltimore and Chicago both going on slumps and us getting hot? Highly unlikely, just statistically, before analytics, all right? It was just a common sense. So, they're on the bus, and they're going to Boston. They're heading to the airport first. And all of a sudden, Yankee team bus, the whole team's on there. It's Mantle, it's Ford, it's the whole guys. It's the crew, Berra's managing, and Whitey, Pepitone, everybody, Elston Howard, Roger Maris, everybody. With the midst of a pennant race, and the mood's not good. All right, they're on the bus. The mood's not good. Any player will tell you that. You come off a four-game sweep. You started a half a game out of first, you lose 4, now you're 4.5 out. It's tough to regain the momentum from that. But they're on the bus, and they're heading got to keep trudging forward. With the Yankees, they just came off of 1960, 61, 62, 63, 4 straight World Series appearances. This will be an unprecedented 5th in a row again. Okay, what's going on? It's quiet. The bus is dead silent. There's not a word being spoken. Nobody's talking. You can hear a pin drop. So... here's Phil Linz in the back of the bus with Jim Bouton sitting next to him. He frequently sat next to him. Jim Bouton, they were pretty, kind of close. They were young guys, young kids hanging out. That's all they were in their early 20s. So Phil Linz pulls out a harmonica. He just purchased it the day before. He was at a Marshall stores with Tom Tresh was there and another player was there. And they said, buy that. It looks cool. He didn't know how to play it, but he bought it anyway. And it came with instructions, number 1, 2, 3, 4, which to press when you're blowing it, how to, the basics. So he didn't know how to play anything. So the basic song that it came with the instructions was Mary Had a Little Lamb. 1, 3, 4, you hit and you blow into it. And he was trying, he practiced it, and Bouton says, look, dude's very low, so, really no one, bother nobody. And he was doing it very quietly, as quiet as a harmonica could be, okay? We know that's not very quiet. Anyway, it got too loud, and Yogi up front heard it. And he was managing the team, and he's in a bad mood. And he was in a bad mood for a while because there were hints of replacing him after the season already. Rumors were in the works. Yogi not looking good. They already made contact with Alvin Dark and a couple others to take over. And everyone knew about this. Well, this was no fact. So Yogi was not in a good mood. They just got swept. Here comes the harmonica. Yogi gets out of his seat. He didn't know who it was. He had no idea it was Linz at this point. He just didn't know. He goes to the back of the bus. He sees Linz with the harmonica. Well, first, before I get that, before he gets to the back of the bus, all right? Before I skip the part, this is an important part. He's screaming at, whoever was playing that, knock it off, knock it off. He didn't know who it was, just knock it off. So he didn't hear because he was playing, so he didn't hear. He goes to Mickey. He goes, Mickey, what did he say? And Mickey turns around. Mickey was a wise guy. He was. Mickey was the leader of the team. And Mickey turns around and says, he said, play it louder. So what does Linz do? He plays it louder. He don't know. He thought maybe even white guys liked it, And Yogi comes storming back. He was flipping. He saw the harmonica. He punched it out of his hand, or it went flying. He didn't know how it went, but it hit Peppertone in the knee. And Peppertone started bleeding. And Peppertone started yelling for medic, like he's in the war, like he got hurt. And everybody was laughing, but Yogi wasn't laughing. Nobody else was laughing. And it got silent again until, Mickey turns around and says to Whitey, he goes, boy, I don't know, man. He goes, I may be managing this team soon, and you may be my third base coach. And you know how I'm going to communicate the signs, Whitey? What, Mickey? He goes, you're going to toot one on the harmonica for a bunt, and you're going to boop, boop for a hit and run. And they were cracking up. They thought it was the funniest thing, but, Mickey was Mickey. Whitey was like, you can't discipline those guys, so they did what they wanted. But it was a bad scene for Linz, and it cost Berra his career. His managing career with the Yankees. He lasted the one season. They did overtake the White Sox and the Orioles. Believe it or not, they got hot. Those teams did get cold. The Yankees overcame it. They made it to the 5th straight World Series, 7th game of the Cardinals. You know how that went. And that was the end of that. They lost. Berra was fired. And coincidentally, the manager of the Cardinals, who beat the Yankees in that series, managed the Yankees the next following season, Johnny Keane. It was just a crazy time in baseball. It was very confusing as an 8-year-old, which I was. So, till I learned about it a little more further down the years. But Phil Linz, he's a journeyman, 7 years in the league. He played for the Yankees 4 years. Look, he was on World Series winners. He came up, boom, right into the midst of a World Series run. And he did have two World Series homers in the 64 World Series. So he give him that credit. Can't take that away from him. And even on an abbreviated career, 7 years, he went from the Yankees to the Phillies and then to the Mets in 67, 68, where he reunited as coach with Yogi Berra. And they had fun. They made up after all that. It's years later. It was just with the heat of the moment, the situation. It was a crazy time, that 1964. But as for Linz, he like I said, he didn't play that much. He was a journeyman. And he was by the age of 29, he was out of the game, and he got a sponsorship, believe it or not, from the harmonica company, Horner, I believe it was called, and they gave an endorsement deal, $5,000 a year, which was a hell of a lot of money back then. I don't know how many years the contract went on, but that was, $5,000 a year for a baseball player making $30,000. That's a big chunk. I mean, not even 30,000, probably back then in the early 60s, so mid 64. So that's it. That's your Phil Linz story. That's my turn back the clock, and I hope you enjoyed that one. I know I enjoyed that story, hearing it for many years with Phil Linz. And we'll top it off with a couple of Phil Linz cards. And look, he puts the little harmonica, the music note. There's a 68 when he was with the Mets, and there's a 67 with the Phillies. I have a bunch of other cards signed by him too. I just found these right away, so I wanted to show them to you. But Phil Linz was a heck of a backup guy, but he wasn't trusted. He didn't play much. Berra was mad at him in 64. He wasn't playing much Linz. It was basically because of his defense. Whitey and the pitchers all said that, get him out of there, Yogi. Just get Phil out of there. But he stuck around for a few more years after that, so give him credit. And he did it 2 World Series homers. Phil Linz, thank you. And he recently passed away at the age of 83, I believe it was. So our next guest up. Oh, this is a good one, guys. This is a Hall of Fame of Celebrity Hall of Famer. He lived to the age of 93. He was an old timer, a funny man, been around forever. I got him twice. Milty, Uncle Milty, on this side and on this side. It is 2. Okay, I got a couple others, I think, somewhere around. But Milton Berle, classic photo of him back in the 50s. This one, he was Mr. Television. That was his nickname, Mr. Television, Uncle Milty. He did it all. He had a long, 8-decade career. All right? TV, movies, Broadway. He was in a bunch of Broadway plays, too. He's a serious actor, too, believe it or not. People don't realize that. He was in the mold of like Jackie Gleason, where, Gleason did serious acting, too. So did Berle. He did some very serious roles as well. People don't even realize that. But this guy dominated the 50s, the early 50s of TV. Wow. He dominated it so much that when he was on TV from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, restaurants would close because there was no TVs in the restaurants for people to watch because there was no patrons. Theaters would close for that hour. They would open back up after. It was crazy. That's what went on. And this is even crazy. In Detroit, the water supply between 9 and 9:05 every Tuesday would be at like an all-time low because nobody wanted to go to the bathroom during the show. So the show ended at 9:05. That's when everyone went to the bathroom. Isn't that amazing? Back in the 50s, how a TV show could affect the water supply. So Uncle Milty was just an amazing guy. He was, he did Las Vegas. He did, he's in the Guinness Book of Records for the most charity events. That's pretty amazing too, because, guy, he had a lot of money because he had $1 million contract, a 30-year contract for $1 million. He signed in 1951. 1951, $1 million. You know what that was? I mean, that's crazy money. So he was making that $1 million every year. Then, of course, back by the time he got to the 70s, it wasn't worth. He was, the contract, they were getting the value out of him now. But he was on for years. After he did the 50, came back in the 60s with the Milton Berle show and show after show and funny after funny and guest after guest. Matter of fact, on his early show in the 50s, I think it was 56, Elvis Presley was one of the first shows that Elvis Presley ever appeared on was the Milton Berle show. Gave him a little recognition. He wasn't Elvis yet. He was just Elvis Presley, performer. So Milton Berle had a dynamic career. I mean, he spanned 8 decades. And the time I met him, as you can see in the photo here, he was, close to the end, which unfortunately came a few years later. But he was still traveling. I got him at the airport. That was JFK Airport. Outside the terminal there, you could see. And man, it's just the memories that float back and, all these stories I'm telling you guys. I hope you're enjoying them. I hope you're subscribing. That's the main thing. I mean, my subscriber rate, I'm trying to get to my next goal, 150. I'm right there almost, We're getting there. 25 at a time. That's my goal. Maybe I'll jump to 200 next time, so give a little more leeway. But it's slow pace. I understand. You subscribe on YouTube. Not everybody wants to hit that button. But do it for me. I'm asking you nicely. So that's all we got today, guys. We hope you enjoyed the show. You'll come back again next time. I'm sure you will for another episode of the Baseball King Collectibles and continuing the journey.